least amount of the speaker here. So in preparation for making sure we got the voices heard that want to be heard, I'm just going to call out on our beautiful ladies. And if you'll just say name and maybe city or anything else you want to say relevant as I call on you ladies to speak and just talk about this topic. Portia, you and I have known each other for a little while here, and you came through the workshop about a year ago. Where are you hanging out right now with this whole issue and your voice mattering?
Absolutely. Portia Ingram from Dallas, Texas, originally from Houston area. And I'm also a mother of 2 Black boys. Well, they're young men now, one 24, one 18, and African-American husband as well. So the topics and the subject of what's going on today is near and dear to my heart and my soul. Mm-hmm. It is a part of me and my life and my world. And the conversations didn't just start today.
Right.
So
right.
It actually started, in particular, I remember when Trayvon Martin was about 15 and was murdered by a man that lived in his neighborhood. My 15-year-old son at the time came in my room and looked at me and said, "Mom, did you see the news? This little boy is my age and he didn't do anything wrong and he's dead." And that just touched my soul. And I just really, at that point, I was like, God, I've got to do something about this whole thing. I have to be a part of the solution because I don't want him or his children to grow up in a world that they just feel scared just because of the color of their skin.
What did you do then?
Fast forward to my life. I worked in corporate, worked in the D&I space, did a lot of work in that area because it's true and near and dear to my heart. I thought that was a place that I could really truly make an impact in the world that I was in. And I hit a roadblock while I was in corporate America and just didn't know how to move forward and didn't really quite understand what that roadblock was. Why was this happening to me?
Yes, yes.
That's when I sought help, looked through Facebook, Mo's ad popped up and she was speaking my language. So I was like, I need to do something different. I need just my career is just stalling. I personally, my soul was dying and I didn't understand why. Mm-hmm. So fast forward through the workshop, I really, the tools that I gained specifically were very helpful for me personally, first and foremost, of me, how I looked and viewed things. So meditation was a really new practice for me, and it shifted just my whole total being, even to this day. So fast forward to, George Floyd. Today, that week, that all America was in an uproar. The whole week, I could see opportunity and optimistic ways to really be a part of the solution. Mm-hmm. I was seeing above the normal pain and hurt that I would normally feel. I could see above that. And it was because I could use the tools and the techniques learned in Mo's workshop that I was able to see it that way. And it was an amazing experience for me because it was like my prayer was answered. I can be a part of the solution and not wallow in just being a victim in part of the problem. So as my boys still come to me when things like this happen. Unfortunately, they've happened more than once and touched our family very deeply. but I can say that I know how to handle it in a way that is productive and where I can help others understand and get through and grow through their emotions in the places where they are as well.
Mm. Yeah. Your ability to see solutions in the midst of a crisis is a pretty profound human attribute, actually. Human beings who are in crisis, who are watching things that are threatening to them and their family, and to be able to have that level of viewpoint is like, it's just fantastic. I mean, what a great perspective. And how did that impact your discussion with your sons while they were handling their fear and grief?
Right. So my oldest son, who doesn't live here, he lives on his own now. He texted me and said, "Mom, me and my girlfriend are going to hand out water to the protesters." The old Portia mom, protective mom, would have been like, "Oh my goodness, don't go," right? But I peacefully said, "Okay, make sure you wear your mask, be safe, and I'm proud of you."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Not to have to sit in fear.
Mm-hmm.
It is a choice.
It is.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Samika, you have two young boys, and on reflection, you've perhaps made some decisions because of your color. Want to share a little bit about that?
Yes, it's one of those things where I certainly wish I'd had some of the tools of the workshop at the time that Tamir Rice was killed. I do feel like that was a really traumatic time for me, and unfortunately, I made it a little more traumatic for my sons as well, because you find yourself needing to find those coping skills to get through it. Okay, I'm balancing all the things that I'm balancing in my corporate world, and then this reality just sort of collides. It was traumatic for me because, as the conversation is shifting to Black Lives Matter, I'm also walking around the hall and being confronted with coworkers who are saying, well, Blue Lives Matter. And so you're already in the minority. I'm the minority as the female, minority as the Black person. I'm the only Black person in leadership, or one of two in leadership. And I'm sitting around tables where the conversation is just not going in the right direction.
Yeah.
And so my ability to cope was challenged, to say the very least.
Yeah.
And when the Tamir Rice incident happened, it forced me to have conversations with my children who were just really too young to understand. And it's difficult to have conversations where you're forcing them to accept logic that's not logical. This is not linear. And I did. I struggled with it. I overcorrected where they were concerned with buying guns, playing with guns, and them being around friends who weren't Black, where that just wasn't an issue in their dinner table. That wasn't a conversation. And so really trying to force my children to accept this logic and learn these survival skills, these coping skills that their minds just weren't ready to deal with. And unfortunately, I discovered that maybe I wasn't ready to deal with it either, or not ready to deal with it in a healthy way. We got through it, obviously. And thankfully, we have not had that kind of an incident to come up again, but it's scary. It's scary as a mom. It's scary, as a Black person in general. It's scary across the board to think that an innocent act, playing with a gun outside, a toy gun, a gun that's clearly harmless, could result in you losing your life. And then what kind of new coping skills, new survival skills are we constantly having to come up with in order to, to ensure preservation of life? And I definitely think that some of the skills, the coping skills, the energy around how you manage your emotions so that you make those wise decisions that you get in this course they're life-saving on a number of levels for my own self-care, but also how I start that conversation with someone else. And where do you start from? You know, what is your mindset when you sit down to try to have those well-intentioned discussions?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, you've been in the workshop probably the least amount of time of any woman here on in this conversation, and had your own journey that's been pretty rocky in these few weeks. So I appreciate you speaking up, talking. I also appreciate you being here, and I'm really glad for your sake personally that we're able to help you navigate what's going on career-wise for you as well. Isis, we've known each other a little bit of time, and dare we say that you were pretty darn convinced that you lost at least one of your jobs in your career because you were a bold, aggressive Black woman. And I know we've had that conversation a few times in the coaching relationship that we've had. What would you like to share and talk about for your experience and where we're at right now?
So I'm gonna do a before and after verbal photo. Pretty much, yeah. So before Mo's workshop, I grew up overseas with brown and Black people. I am Black, and my memories are comforting and inclusive and just being a kid, really. When I came back to the United States, it was a shock.
How old were you when you came back?
4 or 5.
Okay. Uh-huh.
So growing up in the United States, I internalized the racism around me.
Mm-hmm.
And so those voices became my voices.
Mm-hmm.
So I did everything that I could as a child to try to assimilate. And it didn't work. It took me to a really victim-focused place.
Yet you were hard at work and getting educated and doing all the right things.
I was. And then, as Mo said, I was in a job where systemic racism was at play. And I found Mo's workshop. And through Mo's workshop, I was able to regain my power and to focus on my dream life.
Mm-hmm.
One of the tools that I practice is meditation. I practice the 10-10-10. And I also listen to Mo's videos when I can. And recently Mo had a video about the slingshot effect. And the slingshot effect is how space travel occurs. So you take those negative forces, i.e. racism, systemic racism, and you use them as fuel to catapult you to your next destination. Now, that's not something that I understood before the workshop. I took all of the hate into me and felt hopeless. And today, practicing meditation, practicing the 10-10-10, practicing deep self-love and healing. I'm happy to announce that I'm running for city council of my town. and I am a member of the Democratic Club for my town and for the West District of my county. And the Democratic Club for the West District of my county, I was able at our last meeting to successfully motion that we contribute half of our savings to Black Lives Matter. So I am no longer a victim. I'm creating the life of my dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not ignoring racism.
Mm-hmm.
I'm simply choosing to use it as rocket fuel
Yeah.
so that I can protect my community and promote my community.
Yeah. It's beautiful stuff. So the topic of this conversation is Black women's voices matter. And it's even more, I think, powerful for Black women to step into leadership, both corporate wise, to have that level of impact and influence, but also from a political and community and social perspective to have the continued, beyond representation, it's being able to influence thought patterns that have gotten into the thread of the way things have always been thought about. So we're literally reweaving the fabric of community and what we are all about as humans in community. And so I totally applaud and I'm excited for you to be putting yourself in a situation of being a weaver in the community thought, future thinking. I mean, it's just beautiful and exciting, and bravo to you.
I thank you for the weaver metaphor. I also think of myself as a dismantler because, systemic racism is, pardon the pun, woven into the fabric of our country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Part of my job is to unwind or dismantle the structures that support systemic racism.
Well, many Black folks, at least especially in the most current history, have helped dismantle or throw hand grenades where we weren't either paying attention closely enough, we weren't hearing it. And I say we, I'm obviously a white person, or maybe thought that everything that was already going in place was happening. And it's refreshing to me to have this opportunity where we are confronted with the change that is truly needed. I mean, you know me as who I am, and I am 100% always in the face of dramatic change. And so we now have this opportunity to do that, and I'm delighted that you're stepping into your power to be a part of that. That's awesome. Andrea, you were putting yourself in a conversation that you didn't even know you were getting yourself into right as soon as you graduated from the workshop. And I remember in the grad group, there's this like, I'm like, yay, Andrea. What's your perspective on where you are personally as a Black woman and where you see yourself?
Well, I share a lot of the similar experiences the other ladies have shared. I don't have children, but I'm an aunt. My nephew, he'll be 19 in a couple of months. He's driving, he's working, he's a college student. Mm-hmm. But what worries me and his mom is, number one, he has a learning disability. So his communication is a bit delayed. And he also lives in video game land. So he, like, if it's not a video game, he has no idea what's going on. He's not. And we're like, you have to be more aware of your surroundings. He's also built like an NFL player. He's over 6 feet tall. He's 240 pounds. And everyone that looks at him, they think, he plays football. And to like some law enforcement people that don't know him, they would assume, oh my God, he's scary because of his size. And he's so big and I don't know what to do. And he has predominantly white friends, And he seems to think like, you know, you guys are just overreacting, like I'm going to be fine. And we're like, you don't understand, like your friends are going to be treated differently than you. They're going to wonder, you know, like if you're stopped by law enforcement with your friends, they're going to think like somehow you don't belong in that group of friends. And with your speech delay and maybe some of your friends assume that you would get the same treatment that they're going to get, and you know they're going to be surprised to see that you're not, and you have to be prepared for that. So it's like, you know, trying to get him on board with what's going on in reality, and it's scary time. So we
Let me ask you this. From your perspective, is it okay that he doesn't perceive that he's the potential subject of racism, or is it something you want him to be more attentive to?
Well, growing up, we were always raised in our household that you have to be aware of your surroundings. Like, you know, it's for your own safety. And that's more or less like where we're coming from with this. But especially in like everything that's going on, it's like, okay, you're a new driver. You can't be reaching for your license. It has to be somewhere visible, because, you know, they don't know you. They don't know, you know, they don't know who you are. They don't know what you're reaching for. So you have to, you know, prepare yourself for, you know, and just come home alive. Like that's the key that in the conversation happens in like every Black household now. Like, well, even before this, like just come home alive. And that's what we, you know, unfortunately have to prepare him for, especially now more than ever. Since my finishing the workshop, I got involved. Well, I've always been involved in my community, and my state legislator reached out, and he was looking for people to support him. He drafted a bill and put it before the legislature, where he wants to expand our county human rights law to include prohibit any discrimination against individuals based on natural hairstyles, dreadlocks, protective hairstyles, and religious garments. And I sent an email basically saying like, yes, I'll support, this is why. And then got this response back saying like, well, would you like to come and, you know, present to the legislature? And I'm like, what are you talking about? But I ended up doing it. Yeah, it was very important. It's still pending. I'm hoping and trying to get, you know, neighbors and other people I know to also support it so that it passes. And it was interesting when I presented it, I was one of 3 African-American women that spoke, but for some reason I was the only one asked questions. And I felt like I was in a hot seat because I'm like, why are they asking me questions? They didn't ask anyone else anything. And one of the questions I was asked was interesting, was, have you ever, you know, experienced any discrimination, you know, based on this? And someone mentioned specifically housing discrimination. And what they didn't know was I have a real estate license, and I actually, in our same county, within the past 2-3 years, I'd done some fair housing testing for one of the non-for-profit organizations. What they would do is you get a script. They tell you, you know, this is what you need to do. You call, you set up the appointment over the phone, and then you go in person to meet with the leasing agent. Now, over the phone, I've been told that I sound white, which I don't even know what white.
Wait, Andrea. I don't know.
So I make the appointment. The woman sounds delighted and excited to see me. But when I show up in person, it's like, you are who? And, you know, what are you doing here? And it was this very like weird reaction. Like there were 3 agents in the office. They all suddenly had to huddle and go in the back and meet and discuss. Now, as I'm standing there waiting, you know, for someone to come back and assist me, there happened to be a white couple that came in with a dog. And they come in, they're immediately greeted, offered seats. I'm still standing while they're offered seats. Someone even ran in the back and got dog treats for the dog. I'm still standing. No one said, would you like a seat? Would you like a cup of water? Would you like a leasing application? And this was right here in our backyard. So when like I'm telling this story to the legislature, they're like, oh my God, like we thought that, you know, this was like back in the 50s or whatever, like that we had overcome all of this. I'm like, no, like it's still prevalent today. Like this is, you know, why you're seeing some of the protests that you're seeing now. This is why you're even seeing riots. We have what's called the I generation. And they're, you know, on the heels of the millennials coming up. Everything in their lifetime that they know happens instantly, like their technology, their communication, like even ordering a Uber or food.
Right.
It's instant. So they can't understand why. I was even telling my nephew in 1999, I marched for Amadou Diallo, who was shot in New York City 41 times by New York City police. And like they can't conceive, well, this happened 21 years ago. Why haven't you done anything to change it? Why are we still, why did George Floyd happen? Like what is going on? We don't understand. So that's where the anger and the frustration is coming from.
Yeah, interesting. I am so delighted that you have a powerful passion to be a voice. I do know personally that you've been involved in the political sphere as well, professionally as well. And I'm just super happy that you just found yourself having to step into even being a greater advocate just when you were fully prepared, I believe, to do it in a way that really speaks to your soul and all that you bring to the table. So that it just tickles me just to keep hearing about this. We're going to go across the pond. Mabel, thank you for joining us from over in the beautiful UK. And you have a unique perspective on this, not being in the United States right now. However, since we are a global society and you have your own personal experiences, so happy to hear from you about your personal perspective on this topic.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I just want to really appreciate Mo for you coming up to have this sort of program for us to make our voices heard. And I really feel privileged sitting around the table with powerful women,
Yes,
and whose stories inspire me as a young woman as well, growing up. So originally, I am from Nigeria, and I moved into the UK in 1999, just before I was 18 years old. Same year I turned 18, and I came into the UK to do my university. And I recall, because I'm just going to tell you a journey here, right? My journey. So I recall I went into the college and in one of the cities here, and the teacher teaching me asked me, oh, okay, so where do you live? I said, Lagos. Do you live on trees? Do you wear shoes? That was the question that he asked. And yes, and I said, no, I don't. Mind you, there are other Nigerians and other Black people, Ghanaians and other Black people in the college as well. He just said, I mean, he just said it, whether he really meant it that way or not, I chose not to think about it. But I did tell him, no, we've got fantastic houses in Nigeria. We call them irregular polygons because they're that massive and beautiful. We wear shoes. You can see I'm wearing shoes now. You can hear my English because you're communicating to me, right? So that happened. And then I got into university, no problem. And then it was time for me to look for a job. Now, my maiden name is a triple-barreled name. So my mom's surname and my dad's name. So my dad's surname is Daniel, right? And I've got Mabel Dupe, or Dupe Mabel. So my second name, my Christian name is Mabel, and that's my grandmother's name. So I would put on my CV my full name because that's what it is. I had my email address, the full thing, and I was applying and applying and applying, and I wasn't getting anywhere. So I thought about it, and I thought, okay, let's try something. Let's take out all the names that sound African or that would sound different from a white person. So I used Mabel and I used Daniel. I changed my email address just to be Mabel M Daniel. So I did that, and I was getting the phone calls, right, which is interesting. So I knew that was the case, and I even then encouraged some of my colleagues or my friends, even my brother, to do the same thing. Use your name, Lawrence Daniel. It will get you right. Yeah, he was getting the phone calls, and it was working. And and then when just like what Andrea said, for some reason when I spoke to people on the phone, they thought I was from different places. Because the nature of my job, procurement, I negotiate a lot. I negotiate contracts and deals and what have you. So I talk a lot. So different accents. Oh, are you from New York? Are you from Australia? Are you from the north of UK? Scottish? Are you this? Are you that? And I said, no, I am Black African, I'm Nigerian, thank you. And then, but when I spoke interviews, and then I would go for a face-to-face interview because I'm good at what I do. So definitely you have to call me to see what Mabel is made up of. So I would get there, and there was always a shock in front of the interviewer. And I would look, say, who are you looking at? It's me, I'm here. So I got through that hurdle, which was fine. And I would liken it to a pyramid, like a hierarchy. When you're down there, it's okay, but when you start moving up, you know, you're walking up the hill, it's more difficult. You have to do certain things, and it got to a stage where yes, you know what you're doing, but there was something else. I mean, I'm very ambitious, and I'm a human being, irrespective of the color of my skin or whether I'm a woman or a man. I'm a human being. We're all surviving, and we all want to be something and make impact in our lives, right? So it got to a point where I was trying to break through a ceiling. I didn't know what it was. I came across MoFall, and I signed up. I had the clarity call, and I was like, maybe you're very ambitious. You need to hear. It was an amazing investment I did in my life, and I got to then understand how to communicate, how to move. And so it's been okay. I chose to have a mindset that I would not see anything called racism. Maybe you could call it naive in some instances, because things do happen, and I just chose not to see it. This happening now right in front of us, it has taken years of voices being shouted when we're talking and not being listened to, and it's happened. And for the first time, it really, don't get me wrong, it's hit me, the other stories that I've been hearing, but I think this was the climax for everything, because it has to, I mean, when the kettle is boiling, it keeps boiling eventually to spill over. And I think that was what's happened. And in a way, I stand for what is happening in terms of voices being spoken. People need to hear and understand, to the point where I'm deliberately sharing certain videos on my Facebook, so that my white friends, my white colleagues can see what I am seeing, what I'm feeling, and I'm getting support. I'm getting, the voices are being heard. Some people are hearing it, and some are not. I mean, I stand corrected, because what I want to say now is, this is from a deep thought of place, where I would have thought that the African Union, right, would rise and speak against what is happening to the Black race in the world. Because yes, it's prominent in, based on what we hear, it's prominent in America, but it is happening even in Africa itself, against themselves, right? You have tribalism, you have religious, it's ridiculous. It's happening in the Far East, it's happening everywhere. We need to work as a unit. The African Union needs to sit up, and they need to talk against this ridiculous thing that is happening. We need to educate people. And if I may, please, I watched a video. My husband sent it to me just before this session started, And it was a video of it's a white family. So the man was talking to his son, and he called his son and said, "This is a picture." The picture was of children playing, right? Different pictures, but they were black and white, right? Playing. And he said, "What do you see?" He said, "I see children playing." "What do you see?" Then he said, "What else do you see? What is different about the picture?" He said, "Oh, the grass is tall." He didn't see it, which means that his parents are educating him in the right way.
Yes.
So that is what we need to do. My children's school, they're now educating them that, look, we are all one. There's no black, there's no white. Different shells of egg, when you break it, is the same yolk of color that you see inside it. We are all the same. So I just thought I should say that. And thank you so much, Mo, and thank you, ladies. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I remember distinctly helping you navigate internal conversations for promotion and moving yourself forward. And it's always a pleasure to have those conversations.
Thank you.
Debbie Grant, you and I have known each other a couple of years now, and we've had the pleasure of being together in person. Most of my work is virtual, but because we have met at my retreats and had the opportunity to have some deeper conversations, I feel like I really know you and your experience, and some of the deepest racial conversations I've had as a person, much less as a professional coach helping women navigate their professional lives, have been with you. And so a lot of my intimate understanding is through your personal experience, not to take away the other women who have shared their stories, but you and I have known each other a lot through these past couple of years. What's your perspective on where you've been able to come from, what you see now?
Welcome, ladies, to Motivational Monday.
It was not too long ago where you were just a commenter, and now here you are.
Thank you, Mo, for allowing us to hear our voices. Thank you for being open during my coaching. It's a 12-week program, and you're exposed to tools and a different mindset. And so you've been very open. You wanted to know why, in order to help us Black women who have voices that matter move forward. And so you've shared tools. One of my favorite tools is called the Emotional Guidance Scale.
Yeah.
And I work in a profession where I service all different types of people. They have all different types of emotions, and having to navigate the clients through their emotional struggles, as well as navigate my family and my career through those struggles as well. I have faced discrimination. I have faced rejection, primarily because of the color of my skin and not for the content of my character. So I have 2 African-American boys. I have an African-American daughter, and I have an African husband. And the discrimination that we've seen moving from California to Georgia, several years back, was very eye-opening, because California is a more diverse, ISIS, it's a more diverse community. It's a melting pot of all cultures. I remember having my son and having my first baby shower. The baby shower was United Nations. So many people came from all different cultures and brought all different food because they didn't see my skin color. It does exist. So I've had to have the talk with my sons. My youngest is 16 and the oldest is 26, and they're afraid. And so being able to use the emotional guidance scale has allowed me to integrate this tool into my family, where I can move them from fear into a level of peace. I can speak to them about our biblical principles and what we believe in with our religious belief that God is our source and he's going to protect us. But we also have a responsibility as well. And so your workshop helped me prepare my family and prepare my clients through difficult situations in life. And it doesn't have to necessarily be race. You know, there's illnesses,
Right.
depression, all different phases. And so being able to help them with the tools that I've received has been phenomenal. I do appreciate you being open. I do have a lot of white friends that want to know, they want to be helpful. They want to know, how do we approach you? You know, how do we ask certain questions to enhance our educational level on the African American culture? Because we are beautiful people. We have an enormous amount of love. That's our culture. Our culture is built around love and family and togetherness. And
Yeah.
so I think without this program, I would not have been able to have that authentic conversation. And so now I am. And you know, if it wasn't for you peeling the layers of the onions, I'm like, Mo, please don't go another layer.
Not another layer, please.
Please don't go another layer. And so peeling back the layers and really understanding African American women, understanding Black women's voices matter, and allowing this platform to educate the world. I mean, ladies, Motivational Monday, it's gonna go global. And so the tools have definitely helped. I'm no longer fearful of my men when they go out. They're prepared. You are to be respectful. You don't reach for your driver's license. Have it on the dashboard. You don't reach for the registration. Have it readily available. And for God's sake, do not get off the car and start running. So my son had an experience where he was pulled over in a predominantly white area. He followed all the rules that me and his dad taught him, and he had a successful driving ticket, speeding ticket. And I think one of the ladies in the group was, it might have been Garland. So from that, he took the ticket and he went to court, and he was able to get the ticket dismissed.
Yeah.
Using the knowledge of who he is and his truth, and being able to present it in a court of law, and his ticket was dismissed. So I think if we can create an understanding of who we are as people, create an awareness of how to interact with us that is loving and kind and giving, I think a lot more lives will be spared.
Amen to that. Amen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Garland, you're a professional in the diversity and inclusion space, as we say. And you told us before we went on recording how much busier you've been lately. What's your perspective about what's happening, and personally or professionally, either way you want to hash at it?
Yeah, I'm gonna go both, because there's just something very valuable in the personal. Because we've been going to the personal now in the workplace, because we're not robots. We don't just show up to do the job and then go home and do whatever that is and then show back up to do the job.
Yeah.
Our lives are whole. Who we are, how we show up, what we think about, that's who we are. So I am a mother. I have an 11-year-old daughter. I'm in a relationship with a man from France who is white. So race is a conversation for us every day. We don't get the, liberty of not talking about it, because when we walk around in the world, people are looking at us. We're fortunate that we live in a part of our country where it is more liberal, our California bubble, where, as Debbie was saying, it's kind of a United Nations. I know a lot of interracial families. I know a lot of interracial people. So and probably the generation in which I, come up in, that's just kind of normal.
Right.
So race, how I look at race, I think is probably a little different. I am probably naturally multiracial. Where I was born was a creolized part of the world where people have been mixing forever. So in my own family, I've got the rainbow. And so when I show up with race, it's more so what's your perception and how are you constructing race in your life so that it's, defining beliefs that you may have. Because I've got a variety of, and if anything for me, it's been more learning about other people's culture, learning about their food, finding out about what are the differences even within groups, and the intellectual curiosity I have about like the nuances is what I think has brought me to diversity work.
Yes.
Because we are, you want to get spiritual, we are all God's children. You want to get, spiritual, we're all a reflection of the divine.
Absolutely.
And so if you understand that, like in a soul way, which is, I think, what brought me to your course, Mo, like we're souls living these lives.
Absolutely.
We are in these bodies, walking around, having these experiences for whatever that is. Whether we ask for it, whether we don't remember that we asked for it, we're doing that. And so what I think has been interesting from the personal is it's just made it more having meaningful and intentional conversations with my daughter. I think this next generation is going to be just,
I know, right? Something to look forward to.
The best.
Yeah.
And I am hopeful, and that is probably what gives me hope. On the professional front, I feel like it is meeting people where they are. I think in the work that I do, understand this is a journey, and so it's not a quick fix. We're not gonna like see everybody, get to where you are. It's a journey, and so you got to meet people where they are. There are some folks who this just sounds like we are speaking a whole new language. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't even understand race. Like, what is that? And then there's some who they're grappling it with in their personal lives. So they get it real clear because they're having experiences about it every day. And then there are some who this is other people's problem. Like, it's those Black people. If they could just, figure it out and then we'll be fine. It's not. It's a human, human issue. And for me, it's in these conversations that I'm having now, it's helping people get there. We were having a call yesterday and a key leadership professional, he said, we're moving hearts and minds. This is like moving hearts and minds, getting people to, if you're in one spot, why are you in that spot? In another spot, how are you in that spot? And if you are in a spot where you're more open, how can you help move some hearts and minds? And speak to your experience. We've been having in town halls on racial inequality in my company. I have 100-year-old plus company. Most of the people that are at the leadership level are white males, many over the age of 50, 55. And so the fact that this is even happening, amazing.
Right.
And the fact that I get to be a voice at the table, and I can't say how much your course has been instrumental in that, is everything.
Thank you. And I'm delighted that I've gotten to meet you personally also this past January. Isis and you and some other lovely ladies at the same time and out in LA. It was a real delight. By the way, Erin texted me today. She's doing so good in her workshop. I'm so excited about her. Ladies, Karen, do you want to say something before we wrap up? I just am so touched by hearing all of you lovely, beautiful women on this planet stepping into your power at a greater level. And Karen is out in the New York area, so you're been in a hotbed for a while.
Been in a hotbed of COVID, but in New York City. And it's just so interesting how these two profound things are merging together at this time. You know, and I want to first say thank you, because this is such a wonderful opportunity for us, Black women voices matter, that we have this opportunity and this forum to share our hearts. I like how you said that, Garland. You know, it's really impactful to me to look and see all of us here together. I see our faces, and so I just want to say thank you, Mo, for just bringing us together in this way. And if one thing that I would love to see comes out of this, number one, is that it will continue the conversation, because it starts with the conversation.
Yeah.
It starts with us being open to talk with one another just like this, and not just amongst ourselves, with our other sisters that are a part of this group.
Yes.
Because as Mabel was sharing, you know, we are intelligent, we are powerful, we are beautiful, we have the same concerns that come to the table. You know, we want to advance. We want to be seen for the power that's within us.
Yes.
And, you know, I'm not one who always talks, but, you know, I do see the responsibility as a Black woman who has the voice to come forward and to speak, and not and to not be afraid to show that I have power. You know, and I've shared this so many times that I have been someone who, I know that I'm a powerful woman, so I have a tendency to contain that power.
Yeah.
And it comes out in silence, and not intentionally, but sometimes I feel like I'm too much, you know, and I think that comes out of this environment that we're currently in. And I don't want to hide my power, because I know I have something to offer to the world, as we all do right now on this table. And one of the things that I just wanted to share was that meditation. There was this one meditation that we did with Mo, and she just kept saying over and over, you know, that I am powerful, I am here, you know, and I have value, I have worth. And I had to take those words. I have them written on the walls of at my desk. That's something that I share along with my 10-10-10, you know, that I have value and I have worth, and we have value and we have worth. We are worthy enough to be at this table. Now, again, with everybody. And if anything that comes out of this experience of Black women's voices matter, is that I would hope that our sisters would be open to start that conversation, to understand who I am, you know, and that I have something that I can offer, you know, and that I am a leader, and that, like, again, as in New York, where it's very diverse, pretty much like California, you see everybody, but we still have a way to go as it relates to having women have more roles, that they are at the table, and that I don't constantly always have to be the only one, and that we don't just stop at one level, that we are on the board level, on the seat.
Yes, totally.
And I hope that if anything would come out of that, this experience now, is that it's opened an opportunity for our voices to be heard. You know, that poor man, Mr. Floyd, his voice was muffled. It was killed, but it's being brought to life now in all of us. And I think if there's a legacy that he leaves behind, is that we will no longer allow ourselves to be, you know, snuffed out. We allow ourselves to be heard, and to speak, and to show that we are valuable in this world. And we will not allow that to happen to us again, not to our community, not to us as women. And, you know, so again, so thank you, Mo, for that, this opportunity. And I look forward with all of my sisters here and the rest of our tribe to bring this conversation forward, and for us to not be afraid to have it, because it's needed so that we can heal, and so that and we can expand. You've been talking so much more about expansion. This is right here. It starts here.
Yes.
It starts with us.
Yes.
You know? And I'm looking forward to being a part of that, being a part of the expansion, being part of the growth that's going to come out of this experience. And it's going to be good, you know, because we're here and our children. I don't have children, but like Andrea, you know, I have nephews and I have godchildren who are sons, who are young Black men in this world, and I love them dearly. And, you know, I try to inspire them to be the best that they could be. And I think that that's what we're here for. We have a voice, and I welcome the opportunity to be a part of that voice.
Rock on. You know, one of the things that, as you ladies all know, I am very, very passionate about helping women exert their power at a greater level. And that's just not at a personality level. It's at a soul level. It's at power being exerted in the world so that your beautiful gifts and talents can make the impact and have the influence in the world that you were born to have. And so we're all about unleashing and bringing things forward. So I appreciate each and every one of you participating today, and just totally loving on each of you. And we will definitely have more conversations and just more meaningful bringing together and demonstrating whatever way we can how important it is for people's souls to come alive, so that we can, as Portia said, to look at the world in a bigger perspective, that we are a part of the collective, and they are us and us are they, and really living that way, and it not just being words. So thank you very much for joining for here. Hang on, ladies, for a second. Don't go anywhere, but we will be wrapping up this Motivational Monday. And folks, you know where to find me, mofall.com. And thanks, ladies. Black Women's Voices Matter is going to be continued in some way, shape, or form. We will definitely keep this conversation going in a powerful way.